Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
When Jesus, therefore, had seen his mother and the disciple standing whom he loved, he saith to his mother, Woman, behold thy son. After that he saith to the disciple, Behold thy mother. And from that hour the disciple took her to his own. Words from the Passion for this Good Friday. In the meditation earlier today, for this Good Friday, we mentioned how all of history might simply be viewed under the notion of a contract. And in fact, the lesson today about the Paschal Lamb is that contract for the Old Testament. Do all these things. They were not able to do all those things. Thus, St. Paul speaks in the Romans how the law, the contract, brought wrath upon the people. They were not able to observe the terms. Well, through this lens, we can see why many things happened the way they did and why things are happening now, and what to expect as we approach the consummation of all things. In the end, there's going to be a worldwide, all-time encompassing courtroom scene to judge these contracts, which of course is the general judgment. So we need to be about paying our vows, fulfilling our contracts with God, seeking that righteousness and justice that brings much mercy and union with God. And we will be numbered among the just and the righteous of Christ, whose names are written in the book of life. Allow me another simple way to see all history, namely, it might be viewed in regards to the effects of a fulfilled or broken contract. If the terms are fulfilled, peace and order result. If not fulfilled, then there is going to be problems, and I'm going to call those problems entropy. I know, fancy word, we've used it before from this pulpit. Let us recall what it means, this word entropy. It's a fancy word used by the natural sciences to describe disorder and energy losses in a system. There's even a second law regarding it, the second law of thermodynamics. It states that entropy in a closed system can only increase. In other words, disorder always increases unless something more highly ordered is introduced from outside. It is a law of nature, a law of God's creation with no known exceptions. Einstein, early on in his career, tried to find a way to get around it. He was unsuccessful. One of the greatest scientific minds, if you want to use those words for him, had to admit it's a law. A couple of examples we've used before. Power plants cannot extract all the available energy from water, coal, or uranium. Our bodies cannot extract all the energy available in the food we eat. Things are in a state of decline. We get old and die. Our cars break down. Our houses need repair. That is entropy. It's on display daily. We deal with it. Murphy's Law. That's entropy. And when legitimate contracts, especially those contracted with His Majesty and His Holy Church, when they're respected, when they're justly fulfilled, then right order is maintained, graces are bestowed, peace follows. It seems to me that we can safely conclude that entropy is reduced by this cooperation with God. He is the highly ordered source coming from without. On the other hand, when legitimate contracts are not obeyed and their terms left unfulfilled or even broken, then disorder and chaos result. Entropy, disorder, chaos rises, even to the point of melting down. If you understand the second law of thermodynamics, you will have a meltdown at some point. Entropy, disorder, chaos rises even to the point of melting down, or some kind of disintegration, such as a divorce maybe, or a death, body and soul separating. Thus, we often speak of people burning hot with anger, do we not? Or another passion, such as lust. Do we not say someone had a meltdown? Another example might be how power-hungry people easily break contracts to preserve their ideas, their crowns, their empire, with much disorder following. Thus, we have many examples like that of Herod, all the way to Stalin, Mao, and even many current leaders, all of which worked to eliminate any competition or threats to the security of their regime and their ideas. Even the skies around us show the increase of entropy. Wicked and abnormal weather is becoming the norm. Entropy. Our bodies suffering from so many syndromes, so many strange bugs and viruses. Entropy. Dostoevsky says the revolutionary mind is on fire. He calls it fire in the minds of men. That's what revolution is, he says. He's right. He was one himself. He knows what he's talking about. Entropy, fire in the mind of men. They're melting down in their imagination and their ideas. Divorce is chaos and disorder in a marriage. Excessive debt is disorder in economics. Inflation is a sign of that, entropy. Ultimately, those who give way to the disorders in this life, suffering some form of a passionate or revolutionary meltdown, sadly end up living out their entire existence, eternal existence, in the fiery furnace of hell, suffering an eternal meltdown. Examples of these are effects that I'm speaking of with using the word entropy. The example of these effects of a broken contract are not hard to find. When Moses came down the mountain with the stone tablets to address and punish the people down below, mired deep in sin and disobedience and idolatry, he grew hot with anger. He broke the stone tablets to show they had been violated, that their contract with God and the terms had been broken, even as they were melting down with lust in the valley. The result, 23,000 Israelites were put to death. Later on, when these same people rebelled, fire burned whole groups of them on the outskirts of the camp. And once the earth itself opened up with the fires of hell, devouring one company led by Dathan and Abiram. Let us not forget the time they complained about the manna in the desert. We're tired of this old rite. We need a new rite. And off they went to find new breads, new ways. What happened to them? They complained about the old ways and they got burned, killing many of them until a higher order was brought in. What was that higher order? Higher order was brought to bear through the bronze serpent made by Moses. A type of his majesty. It was a crucifix, as it were. Type of his majesty on the cross. Oh, a lot of fire, a lot of burning. There are endless examples that echo these, the destruction, even melting down of the temple in Jerusalem over and over again for the breaking of the covenant, the sacking of Rome time and time again for the sins of men. And on it goes until the final day when the whole world will burn and melt down due to an insupportable chaos caused by the sins of men, all violations of some contract. If not with God directly, at least with the nature of things. and the laws that govern nature, and our conscience being the witness, and even the contract itself. Approved prophecy states that we're due for some fire from heaven for our sins, for the age of peace and the triumph of Mary's Immaculate Heart. What did Our Lady show at Fatima? She showed the burning fires of hell where poor sinners go. And it was filled with entropy, disorder, no order. What we need, therefore, to restore order and obtain peace is for God to regularly introduce his more highly ordered grace and power to rectify and resolve the injustice and bring order out of chaos, to help us obey and fulfill our side of the agreement, to do what Adam failed to do. As Moses showed by way of type, this God does by way of the cross of the new Adam. His holy passion, his death and resurrection is the source of highly ordered graces, higher ordered graces, outside graces that are going to be absolutely required to reduce entropy. Without his majesty and his holy cross, we can do nothing. We can do nothing but increase the disorder. Thus, St. Paul says, peace cometh through the blood of his cross, both as to the things that are on earth and the things that are in heaven. To reduce entropy in our lives and in the world, it is plain we need to keep the cross front and center in our lives and abide by our covenants that were contracted at baptism and later in religion, holy orders, or holy matrimony. We need to keep our contracts that with nature, in other words, following always, without exception, the natural law, and that of supernature in our vows we just spoke of. These were added for the perfection of our souls and the glory of God. Maybe we're feeling some disorder in life, burning with some anger, lust, or some other vice. God is permitting this to happen. In doing so, he is telling us something's wrong. We are not fulfilling our side of the agreement. God always keeps his side, always. He will always be there for us. He promises it, and he keeps his promises. If there's a problem, it's not God, it's us. Turn back to the cross, dearly beloved. Take it up, embrace it, kiss it. Or perhaps maybe we feel the need to renegotiate the terms of the contract. I don't like that cross. It's too hard. We're going to renegotiate the terms of the contract because we do not like where things are heading. I think many have chosen those terms that fit them best. Not surprisingly, are living in a more worldly life. They've left off the cross. They've made a contract, so to speak, with themselves, or perhaps without maybe even knowing it, a covenant with hell. That can be found in Isaiah chapter 28. He speaks about that. Hopefully, I'll talk about that on Sunday. God has not abandoned his church. She is indefectible. Be on your guard. God always keeps his side of the agreement. Always, without exception. Do not renegotiate without his clear and unequivocal approval. Protestants renegotiated. Anybody who renegotiates without God ends in their camp. In order to prevent any future meltdowns, let's do what Moses did. Let's go back up the mountain and receive from God the Ark of the Covenant, which is a type and symbol of Our Lady. This is his way of protecting contracts. Once this ark was revealed, Moses came down a changed man, the meekest of men even. From that point on, in times of trouble, he fled to the ark. He prostrated himself, and God helped him overcome all difficulties. God kept his side of the contract too by taking care of all the difficulties without Moses having to take up the sword or command the death of anyone again. Moses did not have to do anything after that except obey God in certain symbolic and gestures and build certain things. Once only did he fail, due to anger at the stubborn people he was leading. And what did he strike in his anger? He struck God twice. The rock was Christ, and he struck him once a long time ago. The water came out, and he was told to talk to the Christ, talk to the rock. And he took his rod and he hit him, and he hit him again. A leader, sacred leader, unsatisfied with how things were going. And who did he strike? The rock. That's what sacred, in other words, holy orders, this is who we strike. How did Moses get out of that? I would argue the only way he got out was because of the ark. Without the ark, Moses would have been in really big trouble. Because of the rise in entropy, Moses was not allowed to enter the promised land until the ark came in person, fulfilled in the Blessed Virgin Mary. Then on Mount Tabor, because she was alive, because she had brought forth the new covenant in her womb, then on Mount Tabor, as His Majesty prepared for the mountain of Calvary, Moses finally entered the promised land. And he spoke to the rock, from which would come blood and water to save us. Having trouble, dearly beloved, need assistance? Consecrate yourselves and all you are to Jesus living in Mary. Place all you are, all your contracts and all your covenants in the ark, and she will be there to help you fulfill them properly and not fail, bringing them to completion and full reward in heaven. Did we not sing? Did we not chant in the Stabat Mater? Be to me, O Virgin, nigh, lest in flames I burn and die in His awful judgment day. Christ, when thou shalt call me hence, be thy mother my defense, be thy cross my victory. While my body here decays, may my soul thy goodness praise, safe in paradise with thee. Do what Moses did. Go to the ark and pray. Renew your contracts with God, the one God placed there. For it is here the new Adam placed the new covenant, and the wise and the pure of heart join him there to ensure their names remain ever in the book of life. May we all be saved souls together in heaven.